And we are live. So, welcome to episode Pi. That's 314, 314 of An American Werewolf. I am Michael Martin, the American Werewolf, and wow, what a shit show. In the house tonight, we've got Tony DiGirolamo, author of Pineys. Thank you for joining me tonight, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And we've got John K. Alvarez sweating like I'm robbing a bank. That's a lot of perspiration. It's fucking hot in there. It's a lot of pressure. You need that could have been like what is it, Shore? Those old Shore commercials? That could have been one of they cut a Shore commercial in there. Yeah, you had to be sure. So we are in the month of August. Am I getting some feedback?
Look, maybe a little.
Okay, trying to get closer to the mic. So we are in the month of August, and we are covering the director Sidney Lumet. And we were here 2 weeks ago to cover 12 Angry Men. And I said that the great thing about this show is that in this format, I get to watch films I haven't seen before from a particular director. We pick a director. I try to do half of 2 weeks of films I've seen, 2 weeks of films I haven't. This is one that I haven't. We're talking about Dog Day Afternoon. So if you're ready to go, shall we get it going?
Let's do it.
Boogie. So this is from Wikipedia. Dog Day Afternoon is a 1975 American biographical crime drama film directed by Sidney Lumet and produced by Martin Bregman and Martin Elfand. The film stars Al Pacino, John Cazale, James Broderick, and Charles Durning. The screenplay is written by Frank Pierson and is based on the Life magazine article The Boys in the Bank by P.F. Kluge and Thomas Moore. Feature chronicles the 1972 robbery and hostage situation led by Thomas Wojtowicz and Salvatore Naturile at a Chase Manhattan branch in Brooklyn. Elfand brought the article to Bregman's attention, who proceeded to negotiate a deal with Warner Brothers Pictures and clear the rights to use the story. Pierson conducted his research and wrote a script that centered on the story of the robbery around Wojtowicz. The cast was selected by Lumet and Pacino, with the latter selecting past co-stars from his off-Broadway plays. Filming took place between September and November 1974, and the production was finished 3 weeks ahead of schedule. When theatrically released on September 21st, 1975, Dog Day Afternoon was a critical and box office success. The film was nominated for 7 Golden Globe Awards, 6 BAFTAs, including Best Actor for Pacino and Best Editing, and 6 Academy Awards, and winning Best Original Screenplay. In 2009, Dog Day Afternoon was deemed, quote, culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant by the Library of Congress and was selected for preservation in the National Film Registry. Now, this is the first time I've seen this film. We're going to do what we always do and do a little round robin for initial thoughts. Let's start out with Tony D. I take it this is not a first-time viewing for you. Let's give some initial thoughts on the film.
I saw this film like 30 years ago for the first time on TV. Remember TV, everybody out there? And I was, kind of blown away by it, mainly because, I had watched The Godfather and Pacino and I think it's Cazale. Is how you say his name. And Cazale just had the most amazing short career of any actor in Hollywood.
4 films.
Yeah. 5 films, I think it is, right? It's Godfather 1, 2, Deer Hunter.
This one.
This movie. What's the 5th one? I forget.
The movie he was in, as he put it, he didn't like to talk about.
The Conversation. He's in The Conversation, I think.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah. And also he was tight with Meryl Streep, another pretty good talent. But, man, what a run. You're just kind of blown away that one guy could be in that many good films and not be in any crappy films.
Yeah.
Like how many crappy films has Al Pacino been in? But then again, he had a long career. He didn't die of lung cancer in like 78, but still, it's just kind of amazing. So, and the other thing about the film at the time is like, it had all this like really gritty street stuff that you didn't see before in movies. So for its time, it was really revealing. You were showing, transgender people. It was the first time I think I ever heard of someone getting a sex change. Like, why did he rob the bank? Oh, it's for sex change. Like, what the hell is that? Like, I was like 15 when I think I saw this thing. Yeah. So, it shows you where the zeitgeist was 50 years ago. And you compare that to now, and it's just like, people have been trying to do this kind of stuff for the last 50 years. And I've always said in a lot of my videos, a lot of what's made today is a shadow of a shadow of a shadow of a shadow of a shadow. And this was not. This was, hey, let's take this interesting article we found and let's make a movie out of it. You know what other movie was like this in terms of that structure was one of my favorite movies, Marathon Man.
Right.
Goldman got it from a newspaper article, and he just expanded upon it. So I liked it. I liked it a lot.
Okay. John, what do you got for us?
This is not my first time watching it. I think I was around the same age as Tony when I first saw it. But for me, it was 46 years ago. When I first saw it, back when the Philadelphia used to have its own cable station called Prism.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sure.
And I remember seeing it, and being a young impressionable teenager, I never seen anything like that. I've seen bank robbery movies before. I've seen those type of films, but never done this way. And it's funny because I find myself coming back to this movie a lot throughout my life since then. I think it's a mile marker of when, or a milestone when old Hollywood was gone, which had gone like a few years ago, the studio system. And it was the height of where independent films, or what they used to call independent films in the late 60s, 70s, met the big marketing type deal. Because I remember seeing posters and full page things in newspapers. Yes, kids, we read newspapers back then. But, but it was like that the poster of it was done in black and white with all the critics' responses from it. There was a teacher I had at Stockton that was teaching film, and I asked him, what would you do if you had to teach a class? And he said, it's hard because I would always go back to one director, which was Sidney Lumet. Actually, he said he was a big fan of Sidney Lumet. And I turned around and said, well, what do you think is his favorite? And he went, Dog Day Afternoon. And I looked at him and said, like, really? And he said it was a combination of taking everything that was modern, but still using some classic angles for cameras. He said, if I was teaching a class, that movie would have everything of what to do. It's always been one of my favorites, at least in my top 15. And I've always liked it.
This is for me, and I want to say before we get started that this film is available on YouTube for free. You can watch it on YouTube for free. It's part of YouTube Movies. It's not a bootleg copy. That's where I watched my copy, or that's where I watched it myself. I just finished it before we came on. It starts out as a complete shit show. And then somewhere around the halfway point, when you find out what the reveal is, at least in terms of the film, because there is a history versus Hollywood, and I was saying this to Tony earlier before we went on, there's a history versus Hollywood comparison here. When you find out, at least in the film, what the reveal is about, which is that they're robbing the bank so that his gay lover can have gender reassignment surgery, change her sex. It takes a shift towards something more serious. And I think it would have been easy, especially in 1975, to treat this as, in a comedic way or in a sort of freakish way, or to poke fun at it. But they don't. Lumet treats it very seriously. Which I think was really bold for 50 years ago. We're talking about 51 years ago. In 1975, this wasn't something that the public was used to hearing about. I mean, now it's everywhere, but 50 years ago, this was, it must have been a revelation. And the risk taking that he and the writers must have, gone with. Hats off to them. It is a fantastic movie. I enjoyed it a lot. I wouldn't have any problem picking up a copy of it. I don't know that it's a movie that I would watch necessarily a lot, because at the same time, it's just very sad. I find it to be a very sad movie. As you watch plans sort of crumble almost instantly, it starts to fall apart almost instantly, and then it's hard for me to articulate it. You don't know whether it's just, instability, in the perpetrators, or in Pacino's character, or, where he's, he just seems to, when you start to understand more and more about him, like every corner of his life just seems to be chaotic. If it's not, if it's a relationship with his female wife, that's completely chaotic. And then you meet his mother and you realize, oh my God, this guy sort of married his mother. This sort of, person where you can't get a word in edgewise. And then, he's got this gay side to him, where he's got another wife played very boldly by Chris Sarandon. If I ever get a chance to go to a con, I probably wouldn't talk to Sarandon now about Fight. I probably talk to him about Dog Day. Very bold, but it's a very sad film. As you watch lives just unravel. And it's fucked from the get-go. Like, you're under no illusion that at any time these people are going to be successful. That's why I said, what a shit show. But it changes from just comedic, because it almost is like a Richard Pryor, Gene Wilder film. Like, if you were to put them in the bank, and like it goes wrong automatically, you start laughing. But then you find out what these people are really like, and it's tragic. It's very tragic.
Yeah, and the interesting thing too, it's like this movie really stayed with me. Every time I'd watch a movie where they rob a bank, and there's a chance they even take hostages or they do, I instantly think of this movie.
Okay.
Right.
Every single time. I don't know if I know of another. I'm sure there must have been another movie where there was a hostage bank robbery situation prior to this, but I can't think of one. This was definitely like the first one for me.
Wasn't there maybe the taking of Pelham 123 or something? I don't know if that was a bank though.
That was a train, I think.
Was it a train with Walter Matthau? Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a train.
That was a train. Or
You
subway.
know, the other factor too is this is what kind of like New York was in the 70s. That's why I like the first Joker movie so much, because it really captured that sort of it was gross.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, my parents for some reason took me to New York City, and it was just, the whole place was just gross to me. And even then I sort of noticed. I think it was like 10. And that's the way the movie really captures, and that whole era sort of captures that. It's considered the renaissance of American cinema, and these kinds of movies were coming out where they were about real quote unquote people, meaning that they were very gritty, they took drugs, they did all these horrible things, but it was presented in such a bold way. They weren't trying to spin it. They weren't trying to give you any spin. They were like, this guy's messed up.
Well, it doesn't portray anyone as the hero, really.
No.
The law enforcement, it says, I'm looking at this right here, it has a very anti-establishment fury and institutional failure. Sonny's improvised Attica chants weaponizes the recent prison uprising. The police are shown alternately feckless, deceptive, and lethal, which is true. The FBI's final move feels cold and bureaucratic, and I think they found the perfect person to pull that off, and a very young Lance Henriksen, 50 years ago as the shooter. He's just lying through his teeth, and he's got that gun, inside this little false shelf inside the car, and he just blows John Cazale's head off there in front of everybody with all the, the hostages right there in the middle of the bus. Charles Durning as this police officer who either doesn't have control of his own police force or he's just lying to Al Pacino as they're secretly trying to find ways to come in. The FBI agent who tries to get Pacino to flip on John Cazale. They're nobody to root for either. It's not great.
Well, that's it's almost like film noir, right? Because nobody's the hero, and everybody's got this sort of dark baggage coming along.
And it's an excellent tug of war between Sonny and the cops, and Sonny and his partner, and Sonny. I mean, Sonny is desperately trying to keep control of the situation. As it's going on, and even as it gets pulled away from him a little bit, and he starts recognizing it, he starts pulling back. He's somebody who's in a constant struggle. And then you find out later on in the movie, that's where you go, that loss of control in his life. I mean, a good example of it, because you brought it up, when they used Lance Henriksen to drive that minibus, or like I said, big ambulance. It was the guy they had before him.
The black guy,
and when Sonny was talking to him and everything else, once the guy made a comment about, hey, make sure you don't hit me, and he said, get out. What do you think, I'm stupid? That was control. He was constantly struggling to try to control every situation that he could. Even when they all walked out and they had him surrounding him and they got into the bus at the same time, he went, oh my God, it worked. He was desperate.
He's struggling for the control, but he doesn't have it for anything. It's all sort of sliding through his fingers, and his like he's doing this for his husband, or his wife, or husband, wife, I'm not sure, played by Chris Sarandon, and Sarandon doesn't even want to talk to him. You know, like Sarandon's done. You know, there's violence and there's, all kinds of problems in the relationship. So he's doing this for someone who doesn't even want him.
Right.
You know, openly betrays him over the phone. Yeah, the police aren't on the phone. Like he's kind of a fool. He's kind of a tragic fool, for all the people that he's trying to stay afloat for that don't give a fuck.
It reminds me of I've been watching Asmongold arrest videos, reaction videos to arrest.
Oh yeah.
And the people who are getting arrested often spiral into stuff like what happens in Dog Day Afternoon, although it's much smaller crimes turned into felonies.
Right.
So I was just watching this one today. A guy basically asks for a cup of water, uses it to get soda, and he's done it like 1 million times, and the manager calls the cops, and the cops come and tell him, just get out of here. You got to leave. But he won't leave.
He escalates.
Yeah, he escalates until they have to throw him in jail. And then he went to prison. He had like 5 felonies because of this. And he was out on bond on another crime. Yeah. So like the cop gave him this, here's the doorway, just walk through it and go away. Yeah. Nope, he can't do it. And that sort of reminded me of this kind of character. Like he's desperately trying to gain control of a situation that's completely beyond his grasp. He never should have started this to begin with. He doesn't know what he's doing. But you discover that throughout the movie rather than, know it right out the gate.
Yeah, like when the third guy of the robbery says, "Sonny, I can't do it." And his first response was, "What are you talking about? It started."
Right.
From that point on, I'm like, they all should have just walked the hell out. They would have had a better afternoon.
Slasher Fred's had some interesting commentary.
Yeah, hold on. I was just about to get into that. Slasher Fred, what's happening, man? In the 1970s, saw the rise in crime with the Zodiac Killer. Yeah. There's definitely, we should also, talk about the crowd participation. Definitely anti-establishment. They hate the police. They're sort of cheering this thing on. Egging it on, very confrontational, this, that, or the other. It's very bizarre, probably not helpful at all, but the crowd is kind of a character in this. They're like these weird fucking, like, agitator voyeurs, that just, seem insistent upon making the situation worse, probably because they hate the police more than they hate the bank robber. It's that very, so still sort of 60s, 70s hangover, anti-establishment kind of thing.
Right.
Usually in heist movies, the robber is filled with greed, but in Dog Day, the robber is trying to rob a bank. Yeah, he wants to have a sex change operation. Taking a Pelham 123 was a precursor to Die Hard. Huh, that's interesting. Chris Sarandon later became known for a Child's Play, Fright Night, and the voice of Jack Skellington in The Nightmare Before Christmas. I never saw The Nightmare Before Christmas.
And Michael's favorite movie, The Princess Bride.
Oh, that's right. He is. I fucking hate that movie. Sugar and Spice. Okay, there was a comedy movie that came out in 2001 called Sugar and Spice. So there's a bit of history for Hollywood. John, Sal, and Robert Weisenberg attempted to rob a Chase Manhattan Bank in Gravesend, Brooklyn. Westenberg fled almost immediately after seeing the police. They found far less cash than expected, $38,000 plus traveler's checks after the daily pickup. An employee triggered the alarm. Police sounded the bank within minutes. 14-hour hostage standoff with bank employees ensued. Motive centered on funding gender-affirming surgery for Pacino's partner, Ernest Aaron, later Elizabeth Eden. Some reports suggest. Right. Yeah, now that was a thing too. I heard that this was only sort of about the sex change operation. It was sort of an adjacent problem that this was a mafia robbery that just went terribly wrong. Has anybody ever heard that before?
Yeah, I heard that too. I'm doing the research. It was supposed to be a mafia robbery that went wrong.
Yeah, they just brought in 3 shitheads. Maybe he was going to use some of the money to fund his,
Right.
his lifestyle, and so his partner's sex change operation. But basically, it was supposed to be a mafia robbery, and it's just, they brought a bunch of fucking dummies.
Well, at that time, the mafia would have been probably very aware of any shenanigans, and maybe it was the sort of thing where they collected the street tax and gave him permission to do it, in hopes of getting a cut if they were successful. And then when it didn't, they just like pretended like they didn't know him.
Didn't know him, yeah.
That wouldn't surprise me. Well, Pacino's character ended up getting a 20-year sentence, but he only ended up serving 5. I think he ended up being rearrested 2 more times. I think he went back to prison and eventually just died of cancer. I think in like 2006, he lived all the way to like 2006. He lived to be 60 years old. Michael Sarandon's character, Chris Sarandon's character, he ended up dying in the AIDS crisis.
In 87.
Yeah, he died of AIDS. It's just a very tragic story of like these characters that aren't adjusted.
Right.
And they attempt to do this thing that clearly is an indication of, poor adjustment, and it's just shitty from like top to bottom.
Right.
It's hard to, I don't know. You end up like when they end up killing John Cazale's character, like I felt bad. Like you feel bad about it.
Right. That was the thing that even the characters in the bank, they started liking the two of them.
Do you remember when
they genuinely do?
Do you remember when the story comes out on the news that they're gay, and all of a sudden all the women start flocking to Pacino, and they start surrounding him and like shoot, like it starts like boosting like this extra, and I'm like, Jesus, this is like being in a fucking hair salon. Christ.
Exactly.
They just they love him automatically, and they're just, we're not going anywhere. Come on, they're like having fun. That's
they're having
characters too.
Yeah, I mean, it was even the bank guy. The guy was running the bank. His character looked at him and said he liked Sonny. He says it to him at one point in time. For I think it's when they moved the desk to try to block the back door. He looked at him and said, "You all right?" And he goes, "You're showing a little care." And he goes, "I like you," type deal. They seem to be likable schmucks, for lack of a better term, and that you did feel bad for him.
That's why it starts out as a comedy. I mean, they get there and there's only $1,100 in the bank.
Right.
And you're just like, what the fuck is this? Like, I didn't know what to expect when I saw this. So I was expecting something a lot more tense. And in its own way, it is very tense, but it's tense in that the reveal really isn't hidden. Like, you have no doubt that these guys are going down. Like, they have no chance of success. You get it from the very beginning, and it's just a matter of how. So it was different in that sense. People, the one hostage is having an asthma attack. Another one's got like nothing goes right. The one guy runs off like immediately. It's just
it's
a shit show.
The interesting thing too, I think, is you have to understand the time period. Like, this is the 70s, and bank robberies up until this time weren't like the bank robberies of today, right? Like, first off, almost nobody with any common sense robs the bank.
Right.
And when they do, they just instantly get caught. And if they're stupid enough to take hostages, the police just mow you down. Like, there's just no chance of survival almost at all, unless you're utterly ruthless and disciplined and armed to the teeth. This was the 70s when, like, people could get away. Like, if they had left, they probably would have gotten away, and it would have, and if they had like fled to Mexico immediately, there's probably been no way they could have caught up to these guys for like 20 years at least. And so it was kind of a different context for the crime. Everything was so ramshackle in those days. Things just happened. People did stuff. And you survived. You went on with your lives, and that was it. Not like today where everything's like taped and videoed and everybody analyzes it over and over again, and you can't get away with anything.
Even in my shitty little town, they have those cameras now on the telephone poles.
The fly cameras?
Yeah, everything's recorded now. Everything is recorded now. And John and I had just covered Inside Man with Spike Lee, which is a heist film, and we had talked about how nobody makes heist films anymore, even though that one is 20 years old. And just a completely different feeling. Police are very organized. They have, Charles Durning clearly doesn't know what he's doing. Nowadays they have negotiators, come out, they know what to say, they know what not to say, they don't try to agitate people, this, that, and the other, just a completely different feel. At all times it feels like the police just want to rush in there and shoot the living shit out of these people.
Right.
They just want to kill them so they can go home in time for dinner, and no one's going to have a problem with it.
Right.
They're going to go home, they're going to kill these guys and just go home and eat a good dinner and, have a beer and, no problem.
Go to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
And the cops in that era, part of their job was to, if someone got out of line, they would just take them, beat the crap out of them, and dump them somewhere. And say, don't ever come back here. I had a friend that happened to back in the 90s. Him and his friend went to buy some pot, and they ended up with a prostitute who knew where the pot was. And they ended up at a gas station, and the cops arrested them, and they threw him in a van. They drove him under the bridge and beat the hell out of him and just left him there. They left their car up in North Philly. They had to go get their car, and they had to. It was a mess, and it was a message: don't ever do this again. Right. And that was way more common in the 70s and 80s, especially in big cities.
Does anybody? We're local people, so who remembers the Move incidents?
Sure, I remember.
Philadelphia, dude. Wilson Good dropped a fucking bomb.
Yeah.
On that household, and nobody fucking blinked. They covered it on the news, but
well, they covered it because it burned down half the city. But
Osage Avenue, yeah.
If it hadn't done that,
but do you remember?
Probably wouldn't hear much about it.
Do you remember the '78 Move?
Yeah.
Incident.
Yeah.
Where Rizzo called them out of the house and then drove a bulldozer through it.
Yeah.
That's what Al Pacino was talking about the first time he was doing Attica. All the cops had their guns out. Was it that guy wants to shoot me so bad he could taste it? It was one of the lines. I remember that. Lumet was trying to show that as well, I think. But whole
at the same time, of it. Like you said, it was the hangover from the hippie era.
Yeah.
And so, we get a lot of movies today that have the message, as the critical drinker calls it. The message in the 70s was anti-establishment, the cops are total a-holes, tear down the system, Attica, that kind of stuff. So that it was the same kind of thing, but at that time it was relatively new. It was something to be explored creatively in a story. But unfortunately, Hollywood hasn't given that up. They're still doing these stories. They just do them really poorly now. And again, a shadow of a shadow of a shadow.
It's funny because when we talked about Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, we talked, and Hunter Thompson talks about that. It's sort of the point of the book, how the wave sort of broke on the free love movement in the summer of love in the 60s and became this completely depraved thing in the 70s. The draft was over, so what the fuck are you still smoking weed for and out here doing whatever. It's over with. You don't have to go. And you get that sort of feeling too, this raw sort of, the city looks dirty and the people are, disgusting, and the cops fucking, just want to kill everybody. And, you've got these sweaty, two fucking gay guys who want to rob a bank for a sex change operation. There really are no good guys here. You see them as people. Don't misunderstand me. Sidney Lumet does a great job of humanizing the two bank robbers. He does a fantastic job of that. But they're not heroes. They're not good guys or anything like that. In fact, like we said before, to phrase it another way, every aspect of Pacino's life is a fucking disaster.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's abusive to his male lover. He's abusive to his wife. You know, he can't hold a job down anywhere. It's just everything's a train wreck.
When he's talking.
Well, hold on. Let me just this last
Go ahead,
sentence. Maybe just is that everything is just a train wreck.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
every time.
In general.
I'm sorry.
No,
I'm sorry. No, I was just thinking because when you were talking about him, the way Al Pacino was talking, and Lumet not showing them as heroes, when he talked to Charles Durning, you know, the way we're not afraid to kill these people. We're not, I mean, he was being. I used to think he was pretending to be a tough guy to impress the cops. I don't think he was pretending. The more and more I've watched this, I think if push came to shove, if they stormed the bank, he probably would have shot him.
Yeah,
and definitely the other guy would have shot him. Type deal. They weren't the nicest of people. They were sympathetic.
You guys take it for a second. I'll be hold on.
Well, okay. I think one of the things that stuck with me on this movie is the final sequence with Lance Henderson taking out Cazale. That shot is burned into my brain because it reminds me of the scene with Matt Damon in The Departed.
Right.
Wait, it's Leonardo DiCaprio. Yeah. He's the one who gets capped in the elevator, right?
Yeah. Right.
It just happens. It just happens and it's done.
Right.
That's what's so shocking about it. It's like you've been following this character the whole movie and then boom, he's done. It's over.
And I love the fact the scene right before that, where the girl gets out of the thing, she's stepping out to be the hostage that's being freed, and gives him a crucifix. I mean, a rosary.
Yeah.
And said, "Here, may this protect you." And then, not even 30 seconds later, it's like boom.
I misspoke because there is a betrayal between Pacino and Cazale, because he doesn't tell Cazale that guy told him he'd be dead in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
He goes, "You're doing fine. We just got to take care of Sonny." The FBI, and he never tells him.
Yeah. Yeah, he never tells him.
He never tells him. So it's hard for me to articulate what this film is just on one viewing. It's very complex. It seems like a simple fuck up, but it's very complex. And maybe the only good people are the hostages, or turning it into a bit of a party. And trying to find their best way to cope.
I think though they don't know the danger they're in.
Right.
Yeah.
They kind of, like everybody else, sort of overestimates the power of the cops and the power of Al Pacino.
Right.
Like he puts on this great front that he's got this plan, but really he's just going from one thing to the next. He's just reacting.
Yeah, because it's what starts out to be a bank robbery is now asking for a plane to Algeria. Like, who the fuck wants to go to Algeria?
And pizza. And they ask for pizza as well.
Yeah, and pizza, and you're just like, these guys just have no clue. And it's just...
I mean, that's one of my favorite lines in the movie is when the pizza guy delivers the pizza, Pacino starts tipping him and throwing the money. And then when all hell breaks loose, when Pacino gets tackled, the pizza guy turns around and says, "I'm famous now." And I was like, "Oh my God."
Yeah.
That was so to him. Yeah, he was famous. I'm famous now.
If you look at it compared to, and this is the scary part about it, when you look at it compared to other heist films, the audience doesn't have a participatory role like this.
No.
They're usually scared shitless. Or they're pushed back, so far that, but this is something that actually happened. The fans, the audience turned it into a freak show.
Right.
Yeah. And again, I think it's the time period. At that time, those cops wouldn't have had the procedure to push everybody back. Like they would have just been of the attitude, okay, we're going to settle this in 10 minutes.
Right.
We're either going to go in there, shoot these guys, or they're going to surrender.
Right.
So everything was so ramshackle in that era.
Yeah, it was very blunt force.
Yes.
Even Durning said that to the FBI guy when he said we thought the overwhelming sight of the overwhelming power against him, they would have just given up, and they didn't.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
so this is before the era of like the FBI forming like behavioral sciences and learning psychology of people. And what not to do, to try to keep people calm and keep people alive.
Yeah, the vibe is they're just embarrassed that this has gone on as long as it has, and it just has to be ended. We just got to end this thing because the longer it goes on, the more we look like idiots.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, and did you get the impression that the police? It's there, but did you feel on the macro level that the police held the whole rationale in contempt as to why this was actually happening? I got that impression too.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. I think Durning kept it in line, and then when the FBI showed up, everybody kind of backed off. But I think initially the NYPD is like, what the fuck, let's just go, the one guy snickering, sex change operation, this, that, and the other.
So it's the same sort of vibe you get with if you've ever watched Serpico, right?
Right. No, I haven't seen Serpico yet.
Yeah. Oh my god, you got to see Serpico. Another great film. It's because Serpico is about police corruption in New York,
right?
So all the cops are corrupt, and that's,
I think that's why they
the film.
I think that's why they show them trying to go through the back door where Pacino shoots the gun. And everybody panics because I think the cops weren't ordered. I think they said, "Let's just go in there and end this."
Yep.
There nobody ordered them to do that. There was no organization about it. The guy was climbing down the window, and Christ, there was a movie that came out at the same time called Super Cops where they were doing that shit. Where we don't have to listen to the orders; they just go jumping in.
They also didn't have the body cams or the radio, the portable radios. They were in the car. That's another thing I think people lose when they see a movie like this. If they were born in the modern era, they don't understand the communication wasn't like it was. Mm-hmm. It was phones were in a house. Phones were in a building, in a room. Yeah. And that's when you use them. You didn't use them in a car or anything. The cops had this magical device called the radio, but once they got out of the car, they didn't have that either.
Well, and you see that now on those arrest videos. The people in the car that are escalating are always filming.
Yeah,
and it's funny because they're filming their own fuck up, like every time. Like absolutely no insight whatsoever. It's like, hey man, I wouldn't record that if I were you. Jesus Christ.
And kind of like Pacino's characters, they think they know more than they do.
Right.
They think they know law. Oh, you can't arrest me because you didn't do X, Y, and Z. And it's just like, dude, it's the cops. Even if they couldn't arrest you, they could stop you. They'll come up with 10 excuses to do it anyway.
I love those ones where, the guy, they finally, after 20 minutes, of trying to get the guy to come out of the car, step out of the car, they finally drag him out of the car. And he's like, I was getting out of the car. No, you fucking get out.
You weren't.
It's like you don't see anything. You're not making it's like the lack of critical thinking to make connections. You only see things in 10-second frames.
Right.
This 10 seconds is what's happening. I saw that the other day where a woman got tased. Officer handcuffed her, and she complained that the thing was too tight, so he went to loosen one of the cuffs, and he said, when I take this one cuff off, he goes, don't do anything. Don't move. And so, of course, he loosens the cuff, and she immediately jerks away and puts her hands up. So he just pulled out the taser and fucking pop, and he hit her. He hit her so hard that her phone exploded and started smoking inside of her jacket. And she was just like, why did you, she's screaming and crying, why did you do that to me? It's like, did you not just fucking remember what happened 15 seconds ago? It's gone because, there's no critical thinking. It's just one 10-second block to another. All right, hold on. Let's get into some production facts. After The Godfather 2, Pacino was exhausted and initially turned down the role. He later threw himself into it, sleeping little, eating sparingly, and at one point showing up to a meeting on all fours, barking like a dog. Lumet redirected the energy into the character. Pacino insisted on casting John Cazale as Sal, far older than the 18-year-old who he actually portrayed, and refused to play an on-screen kiss with Chris Sarandon's Leon, arguing it would feel exploitive, which is probably true. The emotional weight shifted to their telephone conversation. Lumet ran 3 weeks of rehearsals like a play, then allowed the actors to improvise dialogue while preserving Frank Pierson's structure. Roughly 60% of the dialogue from these sessions came from these sessions or on-set invention. The iconic Attica chant was whispered to Pacino by assistant director Burt Harris just before the take. Cazale's deadpan Wyoming answer to "What country do you want to go to?" was pure improvisation. Pacino's reaction is genuine. I think we do this film a disservice if we don't talk about, and John, we've said this so many times, how good John Cazale is in this.
Oh my God.
He does nothing.
Yeah.
But every time he just talks, you're just, wait, what? Like, you just stop and you're like, wait, what is he say? It's just so minimalist, and yet it's so fucking deep. It has so much strength, and you're just like, wow, this guy is just acting his ass off. Holy shit.
It's a great HBO documentary called I Knew That Was You. And it's about John Cazale.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
And they had Robert De Niro and Al Pacino and Meryl Streep, but the one who got me the most was Steve Buscemi, who never worked with him, but people have compared him to when he does his work. And he points out a scene, it's another movie, but it's in Deer Hunter, where John Cazale, kind of drunk, comes off the dance floor to pose for a picture, checks his fly, looks at a girl and smiles and raises his eyebrows twice. And Steve Buscemi said, to my dying day, I want to know why the fuck he did that. Because I tried to do that moment. You know, that because it was just so natural. He's just so damn natural. And in this movie, he's not doing anything. At one point, I'm just sitting in the background and looking at you. Yep. And I'm going, he's fucking scary. He just sitting there looking at you. He seems to be a nice guy, but
he's holding a fucking what is it, M1 Garand.
Yeah.
He's got a fucking M1 Garand there, and you know, every time somebody comes through the door, he's right behind the pillar. You know, because they're Vietnam veterans also. So you know, they know how to shoot. Then that one scene where he's talking to that woman, "You're gonna smoke," you know, and he starts lecturing her like, "I don't want the cancer." So she's like, "You're gonna rob a bank, but you won't smoke." He's like, "The body is the Lord's temple," you know. And, it would sound ridiculous coming from anyone else, but you're just, he's got gravitas, man. He just pulls you in. I fucking love him. I love him, man. It's fucking great.
I mean, every time Al Pacino's character, where Sonny was running around going, you covered him? You covered him? And he's like, I got him. You got him? I got him. He's calm throughout the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Pacino is the one yelling, Attica, Attica, and what the fuck are you doing? And, you know, and then by contrast, here's this other guy who never leaves the building.
Yeah.
You know, he just sits there the whole time. A lot of time he's just hanging in the back. He's not yelling at any of the hostages or anything like that. And that is what makes you pay attention more.
Right.
I think his genius is when I did improv, they always used to say, to do good improv, you have to be very supportive of your scene partner. So whatever they do, you want to validate and also, you know, add to. And I think that's what Cazale does. I think sorry, I had a fly or something on my screen. He does that. He's very supportive of the other characters, and that's, I think, part of his genius.
Mm-hmm.
It says Lumet refused studio sets. He found a vacant automotive workshop on Prospect Park West, built a movable wall bank interior inside it, and shot so that the real street was always visible through the windows. This let the camera move freely between interior and exterior without cutting away. Cinematographer Victor J. Kemper used almost no artificial light. Night exteriors were filmed in cold autumn weather. Actors held ice cubes in their mouths so their breath would not show, and Pacino was sprayed with a homemade sweat mixture. Chris Sarandon was chosen after a long search. Lumet coached him away from campy Blanche Dubois readings towards something quieter and more domestic. And you know something, he got it absolutely right. He didn't overplay the gay thing, you know, with the extra flamboyance, you know, that would have checked some boxes. It's very subdued. You can tell he's very fucked up, and we should.
And that was big back in the 70s, like that. Your presentation that you just said, that would have been 90% of what you saw on television movies. Like,
Blanche.
Right. And he was nominated for, I think he was nominated for a supporting actor role for this movie.
Well,
or something for the Golden Globes. I mean, he got a couple award nominations.
Well, we should also mention that society's reaction to him being gay or wanting wanting gender reassignment surgery was basically to throw him in a hospital and shoot him up full of fucking drugs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so you're like, they pretty much dehumanized him, you know, from the get-go. You know, he's another fucked up person, but he just plays it so subdued. Like when he comes in, he's so fucking narked out. He's so fucking tranked out that he can barely even speak. When they finally sober him up, get some coffee into him, or, you know, bring him out of these, you know, sort of drug trances. Yeah, he's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Film consulted with gay activists and used members of the gay liberation movement as extras in the crowd, including a young Harvey Fierstein. Let's see. Editor Dee Allen's rhythmic cutting kept the pressure mounting without conventional thriller music. Yeah, there's barely any score. The Elton John Amarina that plays over the opening was originally tip music she used in the cutting room. Lumet liked it enough to keep it on the robber's car radio. Pierson won the Oscar for Best Original Screenplay. Technically, it was adapted from the Life article, but the Academy classified it as original. The film received 6 nominations, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, and Best Supporting Actor, Sarandon. The finished movie feels like it happened in real time because Lumet treated the true story as raw material for drama rather than a documentary checklist. Everything, the heat, the improvisation, the media swarm, the sudden shifts from farce to tragedy was engineered so the audience experiences the same mounting absurdity and dread that the real participants did on that afternoon.
That was another thing about it, that it feels like it's real time. You feel like you're there watching this event play out, as opposed to, you know, and they didn't do this a lot back then, you know. The narratives were more, you know, over a longer period of time. You might have some dissolves. I mean, this was back, you know, in the early 80s, the montage was like a huge thing where you'd have these dissolves showing period of time. I don't think there's, well, there might be 1 or 2 dissolves somewhere in the beginning, but basically it just goes from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing. A lot like a play, you know?
And it like, well, Lamont rehearsed it too, you know, like a play. And he came from live television. We talked about that during 12 Angry Men. So that feeling of keeping it in real time and keeping it moving, I think adds to this film a lot.
Yeah.
That and no music. Because the music didn't make you, or didn't encourage you to feel a certain way. Having no music
it would take you out of the moment, I think.
It kept you in the moments. I really liked that a lot, and that was gutsy in movies from back in that day, because they usually had music running through it all the time.
Yep.
It says the Attica chant was completely embedded. It improvised. It never happened in real life. Sal's age, the real Sal, John Cazale's character, was 18. Cazale was 39. The film shows Sonny speaking with Leon and his family. In reality, Aaron refused to talk to him. Chris Sarandon's the real husband-wife partner refused to talk to him, and he did not speak with his wife or his mother as depicted.
It's more of like a play thing, right? You're having Pacino talk to his mother and his ex-wife, because you're getting the lowdown on his character and his life and how it unravels.
It's good exposition. It's really good exposition. It's really
like it's an organic way to introduce all that information.
Yeah, which just to tell you throughout the film that they're all fucked.
Yeah,
right.
Fantastic film. Fantastic film. Is there any aspect of this film that we have not discussed that you would like to get into?
I like the cinematography from this era, just briefly, because it does have a very sort of natural light feel. So when you're watching it, it's like the light you get if you're like sitting in a car, right? It's just the light coming in and that's it. It's not like bam, like movie lighting or TV lighting. It's shadows and it's complex and it's layered. So I did like, but I like a lot of the cinematography from this era. It's very all natural.
John, anything?
No, I think we pretty much covered everything I wanted to point out about. I love also though the way the media was portrayed. They were almost like predators too.
Yeah,
as ever.
I mean, I loved it when one guy comes running on with that huge camera that they no longer use. When they, when Al Pacino first gets attacked, and all of a sudden they walk up to get an interview with the lady with him, from the bank, and she's like, I'm like, oh my God, you guys are just like,
vultures.
Vultures.
And the dialogue too is very natural.
Yes.
Yeah. I love the pacing. It feels like it's a 2-hour movie. It's like 2 hours and 4 minutes, 2 hours and 5 minutes. It feels like it's dragging on, but not in a bad way. Like you feel what they're feeling. When is this going to end? Come on. How is this going to end? That it's got that dread. To it.
And that was a long movie for its time too. Yeah, that was in the days when 90 minutes was more the norm than 2 hours, or definitely over. I mean, over was almost never. Yeah.
All right, let's get to the part in the stream where we rate the film. This channel has a rating system that goes from 0 to 5 up by half. So 0, 0.5, 1, 1.5, all the way to 5. So 0, for example, would be I'd rather lick a public toilet seat every morning than watch this film again, all the way to 5, which is this is the journey, this is the destination, this is why we watch films in the first place. Tony DiGirolamo, author of The Pineys, what would you give Sidney Lumet's Dog Day Afternoon?
I have to give it a 5. I mean, it's just such a classic for me. It's stayed with me all these years. I mean, the moment you suggested this, I was like, I'm there. I got to talk about this movie. I cannot not give it a 5.
All right, a 5. John K. Alvarez, what do you got for us?
I'm in agreement with Tony on this one. I was debating giving it a 4.5 and a 5, but I got to the point after discussing it. Why am I taking the half off? Give it a 5.
So we got 5. I am going with a 5. I think it's a fantastic film. I love the shift in tone from, like it says, from shit show to just sad sort of look, sort of snapshot of these people's lives. It's easy to dehumanize a bank robber, who takes hostages and women and, these sorts of things. But they did a fantastic job, and they were just people that were fucked. And I wouldn't go so far as to say they weren't evil, but it just did a fantastic job. So I'm going with the 5. I think it had a great pace and great performances, and John Cazale, as always, just stole every scene. Okay. Tony D, plug something for me.
Let me plug book 21 of The Pineys, now available at Amazon.com. Don't forget, Kindle Unlimited is free. This one's called The Afterlife Piney, and it takes place in Bordentown, New Jersey. And it features the Bordentown Spectre, who's on the cover. who terrorized the town in 1877. And it also features the ghost of Clara Barton, who founded the Red Cross and haunts Bordentown at the Clara Barton Elementary School, and Francis Hopkinson, who signed the Declaration of Independence. He was a delegate from New Jersey, and he haunts his old law office with his little dog, Frankie, who I put my little dog on the cover. I had the artist draw Joan, my dog. So it's available now at Amazon.
Cool.
I would get them. This is how I originally met Tony about 2 years ago at the Mays Landing Historical Society at a little gathering called How to Hunt the Jersey Devil, where I ended up buying several of his comic books and books out of the Piney series, and they're all great. Tony, I'll tell you what, why don't you text me a link if you have a page on Amazon where people, and I can put that in the description, and people can
oh, sure,
add those in. I'll do it afterwards. John K. Alvarez, anything?
Yeah, I sent two things to you, Mike, but it may have been too late. One's coming up this weekend for where I work, historic Cold Spring Village. The weekend's actually celebrating becoming Cape May, and it's basically how a coastal settlement in the southern tip of New Jersey grew to be America's first seaside resort. They have music, lectures, and things that are going on. But next week, and I hope when we do a show next week, I can get a thing to you. I think I sent it to you. Cold Spring Village, for about 2 years now, has been doing ghost walks. For those of you who are not aware, there are many people who believe that Cape May County and that area is one of the most haunted places in the United States. I myself am one of them. I actually enjoy it. But the guy who's been doing it, who's a very wonderful historian, who also happens to be empathic, he would take these people Friday nights around this village that was lit up in candles and go to each of the house and talk a little history of the house and if it's haunted or if he feels anything. And it's really interesting and kind of creepy. And sadly, the 28th of August is going to be the last time he's going to be able to do it. Not because they're dropping it, they're having somebody else do it, but physically he's injured in his back and his legs. But it's going to be the last time he goes through it. If you're actually interested in it, they do it at 8 o'clock at night. It's a going price. You also get a discount to go into the tavern that's there, as well as going into the village later on. It's at 735 Seashore Road, Cape May, New Jersey, 08204. For tickets, 609-898-2300. It's Ghost Walks. And trust me, man, they're going to start up again August 28th. That'll be Bob's last one, but they're going to go all the way through to October. They're fantastic, especially if you want to get into that Halloween mood and not walk into a spirit store.
Yeah, Cold Spring Village is great. I've been there. I did a talk there. It's awesome.
And I think that's why I first saw you, Tony. I didn't realize it was you until we started doing this. Because, you know, they do a lot of different lectures. They got a guy who does Ben Franklin from upstate Pennsylvania, who not only does he look like it, he brings experiments and freaks the kids out that they didn't know that, wait, Ben Franklin did this?
Oh, wow.
You know, he's like that type of deal. They do stuff like that. That's a lot of fun. Like in September, we're doing a Revolutionary War encampment and a battle and a Civil War 1, 2.
Ooh, awesome.
That deal.
All right. Well, I'm sorry, John, that I didn't catch that notification.
That's all right. If we do one next week, I'm probably going to plug the ghost story again.
Yeah, absolutely. Just
only because Bob's a great guy.
Well,
he's been. I'm sorry.
No. I'll say when you send them, just announce it during the stream, man. Hey, man, I sent you something. I need you to add it in. I'm happy to do it. No problem.
Sorry, I completely forgot about it, Michael.
That's all good.
I was sweating like I was in a bank robbery. Sorry.
All right. For this channel, we will be back next week, concluding the month of August. I can't believe we're already at the end of fucking August. Wait,
Yep.
Hold on.
No, I think you got 2 weeks.
Yeah, do we have 2 more weeks? Hold on.
Yes.
What's today?
Well,
today is only today's the 19th.
so I guess you only have one more Wednesday. You only have one more Wednesday.
Yeah.
This is the last Wednesday. One more Wednesday. We will be concluding Sidney Lumet for the month of August. and we're going to do the 1972 classic Murder on the Orient Express.
Okay.
And that is also free on YouTube. It would have been easy to do Serpico, or I would have loved to have done The Verdict. Or we could have done Failsafe, the original Failsafe from 1964, which I always thought was better than, what is that other movie? Dr. Strangelove. I always thought that was a better film. But that's just me. But it will be Murder on the Orient Express, and all of you are welcome to join.
There you go.
All right. My thanks to Tony DiGirolamo, the author of The Pineys. My thanks to John K. Alvarez. We will see you all in the next video.